I have curated this bite-sized, digestible 3-part series for you on life lessons that can be learned from every book of the Bible. This is part 1, and I do have 2 more parts after this. So if you want to see those, then go ahead and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you will be notified when I upload. In Genesis, God shows us, if you unequivocally, that means without a doubt, speak nothing but excellence out of your mouth, you will hold the power to transform your entire life from this day forward. What you speak out of your mouth, you will manifest in your atmosphere, because life and death lie in the power of the tongue. Exodus teaches us that if we are going to remember anything about our past, recall our successes. Wear your achievements on your face as you approach every new chapter of your life. No matter the change in scenarios, people, places, or goals, remember your wins. In Exodus 3 and 6, God gave Moses his impressive resume. He said, "Hi, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." And if you know those stories, then you know that he's basically saying, I am the God of consistency, I'm driven, and nothing that I propose to do will be impossible for me, because that is what he showed us through the stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so he approached everyone like that. He didn't say, well, I'm the God that created this beautiful nation of people and they ended up sinning against me and then I had to redo what they undid. You know what I'm saying? He didn't state where he failed, because nothing is a failure to God. It's just a redirection. But he stated where he succeeded, where we can truly see the hand of God in people's lives. No matter the change in circumstances, no matter the different attitudes that he was getting ready to work with, he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The word Exodus means going out, retreating, fleeing. So as you go out into the world, remember the times you have flourished, thrived, and prospered. Wear your successes on your face, just like God. Leviticus illustrates this idea of holiness. Holiness means to be set apart, not conform to the world, but conform to the word. So in this book, we are taught how to protect our gates in order to be set apart, maintaining a conscientious relationship with God by being cautious of what goes in and out of your temple, filtering what you watch, listen to, get involved with, what you touch, put your hands into, what you eat, and what you speak through the mirror of holiness. Numbers and Deuteronomy teaches us the quote that is actually on the outro of my videos now. Mindset is everything. The people of Israel were stuck in the middle. They were free from bondage, but not yet to the land of milk and honey. However, their grumbling is what made an 11-day trip take 40 years. It was their wilderness mindset that they were stuck in that prevented them from fearing the Lord. So change your mindset, change your life. Fear the Lord and he will bless you. Joshua and Judges shows us that God will work with us as we are, not as we should be, as long as we persevere. Perseverance is not the absence of failing, but rather the determination to get back up even after you have. Joshua courageously led the people of Israel into the land of Canaan. Even with their grumbling, their mumbling, he persevered. And the flawed leaders in the book of Judges were used even in the spiritual, messy condition they were in. So God will work with us as we are, not as we should be. Ruth was an outsider, not born into the faith, But as she trusted in the Lord, he gives her a monumental role in his plan. She marries Boaz. They give birth to Obed. Obed becomes the father of Jesse, and Jesse becomes the father of David. So it is through Ruth's bloodline that Jesus is born. Even when you are an outsider in this world, you are an irreplaceable character in God's story. The story of 1st and 2nd Samuel is framed by prayer. Hannah gets the gift of a child that she had been wanting in the very beginning of 1 Samuel. And David finally gets freed from all his haters at the end of 2 Samuel. What's interesting is that in the beginning of 1 Samuel, Hannah prays. She gets what she was wanting. At the end of 2 Samuel, David prays. He gets what he was wanting. And they frame Samuel together in this beautiful prayer of thanksgiving to the Lord. Both Hannah and David pray prayers about not taking God for granted. Samuel shows us that there is nothing that God brings us to that he will not bring us through. So all we have to do is lead a life of prayer and give credit where credit is due. 1st and 2nd Kings teaches us to obey the still small voice of the Lord. God told Elijah he'd send the rain. Elijah told his servant to confirm that it had been raining. The servant said no. Elijah said, go back and check 7 more times to see if it had started raining. And after the 7th time, the rain began to pour, teaching us not to lean on our own understanding, but to lean on what God says, even when it is unseen. But you have to be listening out for that still small voice, because God is a gentleman. He's going to knock on the door of your heart. He's going to speak to you. But if you don't open the door, he's not going to come in and eat with you. 1st and 2nd Chronicles highlight worship. Worshiping in spirit and in truth is the nuts and bolts of every wholesome Christian's life. You cannot be a believer fully if you're not truly worshiping in spirit and in truth. It's a part of the job. In Ezra and Nehemiah, Israel's identity in God was in constant danger by those around them. These people were ridiculed, mocked, persecuted, and because of that, they were discouraged. And unforeseen circumstances caused them to have to pause on the rebuilding of the temple of God and on the rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem. But by grace, both were completed, teaching us that the enemy might win some temporary victories, but understand that it is only a delay, not a defeat. So look at the rebuilding of these structures as a metaphor to continue rebuilding your faith in trying times. 2 Corinthians says, we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Esther, like you and me, was born for such a time. Her beauty is what gave her a shot at becoming queen, but it was her anointing and bravery that saved an entire Jewish nation from getting executed. What I like about Esther is that she handled the situation with wisdom and good timing. Rather than approaching the king right away to ask him to spare their lives, she waited on God. She and everybody else that was under her rule, she got everybody to fast and pray for 3 days. And after the fast was up, then she decided to approach the king. In that time of her fasting, the Lord was working on the king's heart. So had she approached him any earlier, things might not have gone as planned, which is why it's very important to wait on God, because in your waiting season, he is working. Do it afraid, but do it with wisdom. Through prayer and patience, wait on the Lord to tell you when it's actually time. The story of Job is one that scratches a lot of heads because he was a righteous man whom the Lord asked the enemy to consider. Now, there are many life lessons in the book of Job. There's one particular one that I want to approach today. When Job started suffering, his friends and his wife turned their backs on him. And so the lesson in this is to consider your circle. Who's around you? Are those people building you up or are they breaking you down? And if the latter, then it's time to downsize and simplify. Psalms is an all-time favorite in the lives of many believers because it's easy to read and it's beautiful and it's poetic. But one of the lessons that I've learned in the book of Psalms is learning to abide with God, becoming a best friend of Christ, singing his praises in the good time, but also glorifying him in the hard times because God is mindful of you. And he wants to spend an ample amount of time with you, no matter the situation, no matter the season of your life. Psalms 8:4 says, "What is man that you are mindful of him? And the Son of Man that you visit him? Abide." Proverbs has personally set the stage for my life because since I was a little girl, I have always prayed for wisdom. At the time, I thought wisdom was knowledge, but I came to figure out along the way and, through many different trials of my life where you actually grow wisdom in, I've come to figure out that wisdom is different than knowledge. But at the time, God gave it to me because God gives wisdom without finding fault. And so the book of Proverbs has been one of those golden books of my life. One of the life lessons that I have recently gotten from the book of Proverbs is to refocus the way that you see things, listening to your heart's experience with the Lord versus relying heavily on your head knowledge, which means learning to love and trust God with your whole heart versus analyzing every situation with your human brain and senses, becoming blind to the world, but seeing clearly in the spirit. One trick I took into practice to make this come alive in my life is to start by writing down every little thing that you fear, that you worry about, or that you want to see come to pass, writing it down on pieces of paper, really tiny, and then crumbling those pieces of paper up, looking at them crumbled up, but then looking at God and thinking about how much more massive he is compared to those tiny little pieces of issues that you have now just wrapped up. And then considering that this ain't got nothing on my big God. So then what am I tripping for if God got me? Ecclesiastes teaches us how to focus on the process and not the result of any brand, business, project, or idea that you are looking to grow. This can actually apply to relationships and healing as well, focusing on the process and not the outcome. Ecclesiastes 11:4 says, "Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap." Whatever area that you are looking to see fruit grow from, learn to love on the process and not the outcome, or you won't stay the course due to a lack of motivation of not seeing anything change. The process is about the present, and the outcome is about the future. So you have to ask yourself, which one of those can I control? Food for thought. In the Song of Solomon, we see an exquisite illustration of love between a man and a woman. It teaches us that love in a relationship is more than just sex. It should be woven together with deep intimacy. We were created physically, emotionally, and spiritually to live in intimate love with one another in a marriage, which also showcases Christ's love for his church, the bride. Also, if you have not checked out my video on how to be a Proverbs 31 wife, click the cards up here to watch that video next. Go ahead and subscribe for part 2 of life lessons from every book of the Bible. Like this video if you found it helpful. Follow me on Instagram if you want to connect with me. I did write a book called The Activated Word. So if you or someone that you know is struggling with depression and anxiety, The link is in my description box to order this today. The first woman to read this was healed from 50 years of a debilitating anxiety disorder. So, this book is the truth. I love you so much, and I will see you in my next video.